Marcus Everett wiped his rough, calloused hands on his faded apron, squinting against the midday sun that burned over the wasteland. The ruins of what was once a thriving city sprawled around him, broken concrete and twisted steel strewn across the land like discarded remnants of a past life. There was little left of the world he had once known, just rubble and dust, scorched by fire and loss. Yet here he was, running a food stall. It was a humble operation, nestled among the scattered remnants of an old street market. Half a dozen makeshift tents surrounded him, the frayed fabric fluttering in the dry wind. The faint smell of burnt wood and scorched earth mixed with the savory scent of grilled meat and vegetables, his specialty, a rare delicacy in a world where fresh food was a luxury few could afford. His stall, while small, had somehow become a symbol of normalcy in this broken world. People came from all over to taste his simple creations, some survivors of the war, some wanderers, and even the occasional alien. Marcus wasn't sure how or why, but the aliens had begun to take an interest in his food. He wasn't exactly thrilled about it. He'd seen their warships, heard the stories of the destruction they'd left behind. The Krethor, they were called, an aggressive, expansionist species that had nearly wiped humanity off the map. But here they were, lined up in his humble stall, just like the humans, ordering food. A pair of alien girls stood at the front of the line, their skin shimmering in the harsh light, their eyes glowing faintly with a strange, otherworldly hue. Their slender figures moved gracefully, their clothes as foreign as their appearance, a mix of metallic fabric and glowing accents that seemed to change colors with their movements. They were beautiful in an alien way, their faces framed by hair that looked like liquid silver. Marcus glanced up, meeting their gaze. One of the girls, her voice soft and melodious, broke the silence. "The aroma, it is unlike anything we have encountered." "What is it?" Marcus gave a half-hearted smile, shaking his head. "Just food," he muttered, handing over a steaming plate of grilled meat and vegetables, the savory steam curling up in the hot air. "Nothing special." The girl smiled, her teeth sharp but beautiful in their own way. She took the plate with both hands, holding it as though it were a rare treasure. The other girl, standing silently beside her, looked over Marcus' stall with an intensity that unnerved him. "I have heard you are not just a cook, Marcus Everett," the first girl continued, her voice smooth like silk, though there was something colder underneath. "Your food, it has power." Marcus raised an eyebrow, his stomach tightening. "Power?" He didn't like where this was going. "I just make food for survivors." "It's not magic, if that's what you're asking." The girl chuckled, her eyes narrowing slightly as she observed him. "No, not magic. Power, in the way it binds people together. You have managed to feed both human and alien alike. Your food has an influence." Marcus felt a shiver run down his spine. He had heard rumors of the Krethor trying to manipulate human emotions, using food, scent, or other means to sway people into submission. He wasn't sure if this was their game or just a coincidence, but he wasn't about to trust them. "I'm just a cook," he replied flatly, trying to maintain his distance. "Food's for everyone. If you like it, great. If not, there's plenty of other places in the wasteland." The girl nodded slowly, studying him with an unreadable expression. "We do like it. And we think you could do more. You could offer your skills to our people, Marcus Everett. We could offer you something in return." Marcus' eyes narrowed. He'd dealt with enough people in this new world to know when something was too good to be true. "I don't need anything from you," he said, his voice hardening. "I've survived this long without help." But the girl, still smiling, reached into her metallic sleeve and pulled out a small, gleaming object, a device that hummed softly in her hand. She held it out to him. "This," she said, "is a Krethor technology. It can enhance your stall, increase your yield, make your food even more desired. We can offer you power beyond your imagination." Marcus' gaze flickered to the device. He could feel the temptation gnawing at the back of his mind, but he quickly suppressed it. The last thing he needed was to accept something from these creatures, who knew what strings would be attached. "I don't want your technology," he said firmly, pushing the object away. "Keep it. I'm good with what I've got." The girl's smile faltered, but only for a moment. Her companion, the silent one, stepped forward now, her eyes intense and calculating. She studied Marcus carefully, her voice quiet but commanding. "You misunderstand us," she said, her tone cold. "We do not simply offer you technology, Marcus Everett. We offer you survival. We offer you the opportunity to rebuild. You could have power, influence, protection. You could have anything you want." Marcus felt a momentary flicker of doubt, but he quickly shook it off. "I don't need anything from you," he repeated, his voice steady but low. "This is my stall, my life. I built it with my own hands, and I'm not interested in your deals. So if you're done, I suggest you move on." The girl's smile was gone now. Her eyes flashed with something darker, a threat barely hidden beneath her serene facade. "Do not mistake our offer for weakness," she said quietly. "You may find yourself in need of our help sooner than you think." Marcus didn't respond. He just nodded sharply and turned his attention back to the humans in line. He wasn't about to play their game. Not today. The aliens left without another word, their strange, glowing eyes still lingering on him as they retreated. Marcus sighed, wiping his brow with the back of his hand. He couldn't shake the feeling that their visit wasn't just about food. That device, they had wanted something from him. And it wasn't just a meal. He watched as the last of the alien girls disappeared into the distance, their silhouettes dissolving into the haze of the wasteland. A lingering sense of unease settled over him. He couldn't afford to ignore it. The war may have ended, but the real battle, of power, of survival, was just beginning. The days after the Krethor visit were different. The air around Marcus felt thicker, heavier, as if the ground beneath him had shifted without warning. His food stall, once a haven for weary survivors, had become the subject of strange whispers, mutters of power, of deals that were too good to be true. Marcus couldn't escape the thought of those alien girls and the offers they had laid before him. It wasn't the technology they offered that bothered him. In a world where survival often depended on scavenged scraps and makeshift tools, a device that could boost food production was undeniably tempting. It was what came after, the promises of power, of influence, that made him uneasy. Marcus had seen enough in his life to know when something was off. People didn't offer something for nothing, and the Krethor weren't exactly known for their charity. He had no doubt that the real price of their offers would be steep, and he wasn't sure he was willing to pay. Still, he couldn't stop thinking about it. The temptation lingered in his mind, gnawing at him every time he grilled a piece of meat or handed out a warm plate of food to a hungry survivor. The lines between right and wrong were blurred in this new world, and every choice seemed to come with a cost. On the third day after their visit, the Krethor returned. Marcus wasn't surprised. He'd been waiting for them, though he'd hoped they would stay away, give him a chance to clear his head. But that wasn't the way things worked now. This wasteland, this broken world, was all about survival, and survival meant making choices. Uncomfortable ones. Zarake, the leader of the Krethor delegation, approached first. She was dressed in sleek, metallic clothing that shimmered in the afternoon light, her tall frame cutting an imposing figure. Her dark eyes locked on Marcus as she drew closer, her expression unreadable. "You have been thinking about our offer," she said, her voice low and almost soothing. Marcus didn't speak at first. He wiped his hands on his apron, avoiding her gaze. There was no point in pretending he hadn't been thinking about it. He had, more than he cared to admit. But he wouldn't give her the satisfaction of knowing how close he was to considering her words. "I've thought about a lot of things," he said finally, his voice steady. "But your offer isn't one of them." Zarake's lips curled into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You misunderstand, Marcus Everett. We are not asking for your consent. We are offering you an opportunity to rebuild, to thrive." She paused, taking a step closer. Humanity, after all, has always been resourceful. But in this new world, resourcefulness is not enough. You need more. We can help you. Marcus felt a prickle of unease as she spoke, her words almost hypnotic. The way she phrased it, like it was inevitable, like his survival depended on her, made his skin crawl. "I don't need your help," he said firmly, trying to steady his breathing. "My stall is fine the way it is. I don't want your technology. I don't want your power." Zaraka's smile faded, replaced by a look of mild disappointment. "You are stubborn. I respect that." She tilted her head, her eyes narrowing. "But I think you will find that your stubbornness will cost you." Before Marcus could respond, the second Krethor girl, the one who had been silent during their first visit, stepped forward. She was smaller than Zaraka, her silver skin gleaming in the fading sunlight. Her eyes were bright, almost too bright, and there was something unsettling about the way she observed him. "We are not your enemies, Marcus," the girl said, her voice soft but insistent. "We seek only to help you understand the true potential of your existence. Your food, your stall, these things are more important than you realize." Marcus shook his head, frustration bubbling up. "What do you want from me? If you really wanted to help, you wouldn't be standing here trying to sweet-talk me into a deal that's bound to have a price I can't pay." Zaraka's gaze hardened. "You misunderstand again. We do not want anything from you, Marcus. But we offer something you cannot afford to ignore." Her voice dropped, becoming sharper. "We can offer you power, and we can offer your people safety. But we will not wait forever." Marcus felt his chest tighten. He had been waiting for the other shoe to drop, for them to show their true intentions. And now, he had no doubt. This wasn't about food. This wasn't about a simple exchange. This was about control. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm. "You're not here to help me," he said, his voice low but steady. "You're here to make sure I play by your rules. But I'm not interested in being a pawn in your game." Zaraka stepped forward, her presence overwhelming. "You will change your mind, Marcus. When you see the destruction that is coming, when you realize what your choices will cost your people, you will beg for our help." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken threats. Marcus stood his ground, refusing to let the fear creeping up his spine show on his face. "I'm not afraid of you," he said, his voice unwavering. Zaraka's eyes flashed. "You should be." With that, she turned, walking away with the same grace she had entered with, leaving Marcus standing there, his heart pounding in his chest. The silence in the aftermath felt deafening. He stared at the ground, his mind racing. He had known this wasn't just about food. It had never been. The Krethor were testing him, pushing him to make a choice. And for the first time since they had arrived, Marcus wondered if they were right. Could he afford to keep his stubbornness, his pride? Or would he have to swallow his doubts and accept their offer, for the sake of survival? The sun was sinking lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the wasteland. As Marcus looked out across the horizon, he saw the faces of the survivors who relied on him, who depended on his food to get by. He couldn't let them down. But could he really trust the Krethor? The choice loomed before him like a storm on the horizon, and the winds of change were already beginning to stir. The wasteland stretched out in front of Marcus like a dry, endless sea. The wind kicked up dust, scraping the cracked earth, sending the last remnants of hope scattering like debris. His food stall, a beacon of survival in this ruined world, suddenly felt smaller, less significant. The weight of the Krethor's words hung over him, heavier than the load of firewood he carried in from the broken outskirts of the city. It was the choice that was suffocating him. Every time he closed his eyes, he could see Zaraka's face, her eyes flashing with that unspoken promise of power. The last few days had been a blur of uncertainty. The tension between him and the Krethor had only grown since their last visit. They had not returned, but their presence lingered in the air, like the threat of a storm that refused to break. The survivors who lined up for food seemed unaware of the shifting undercurrent. They came for the warmth of his cooking, the taste of something familiar in a world gone mad. But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. The Krethor would return, and when they did, the choice would be made for him. Whether he liked it or not. "Marcus?" A voice interrupted his thoughts. He looked up to find Claire, one of the regulars, standing at the edge of the stall, her arms crossed. Her eyes were dark, full of the worry that had become so familiar in these days of endless struggle. "You've been quiet. Is everything okay?" Marcus forced a smile. "Just tired. It's been a long few days." Claire didn't buy it. She stepped closer, her voice lowering to a more cautious tone. "You've been staring out at the horizon a lot. You're thinking about them, aren't you?" "The Krethor." Marcus didn't answer immediately. Instead, he focused on grilling the meat, the familiar rhythm of his work grounding him, though his thoughts remained elsewhere. "They offered you something, didn't they?" Claire pressed, her voice sharp with a mixture of concern and curiosity. Marcus glanced up at her, his eyes clouded with uncertainty. "They offered me power, safety, food, and something else." He shook his head. "But it came with a price." Claire nodded slowly, her expression darkening. "You're not the only one who's noticed their interest in you. They've been watching us all, Marcus. I've seen them in the shadows, lurking just out of sight." Marcus tightened his grip on the grill handle. "I'm not interested in what they have to offer. Not anymore." Claire looked at him for a long moment, studying his face, before speaking again. "You say that now, but when they come back, you'll have to make a choice. And it won't be easy. You know that." He didn't want to admit it, but she was right. The choice had been gnawing at him for days, ever since Zarake had left with her cryptic warning. Marcus had known it was inevitable, the Krethor would return. They always returned, like predators circling their prey. But what would he do when they did? The wind shifted, and Marcus looked up to see a familiar silhouette approaching from the distance. His heart sank. It was her, Zarake. She had returned. Her long strides carried her across the dirt, and her entourage followed close behind. The others, human and alien alike, watched from a distance, sensing the unease in the air. Marcus didn't move, though his muscles tensed in anticipation. "Marcus Everett," Zarake called out, her voice smooth, almost welcoming, like a serpent coaxing its prey. "It seems you've been thinking." "I've been thinking about how to survive," Marcus replied evenly. "And it doesn't involve you." Zarake's smile was faint but calculating. "Survival is not enough, Marcus. You've learned that already. You've seen the way the world has shifted, how the old systems have fallen. What you need now is control. You need to take what's yours." "I've already got everything I need," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I've got food, I've got a roof over my head. What more do I need from you?" Zarake stepped closer, the air around her vibrating with a quiet intensity. "You are not just any survivor, Marcus. You're a symbol. You represent humanity's resilience, its refusal to die. But that refusal is not enough. You can do so much more, and we can help you achieve it." Marcus clenched his jaw, trying to keep his emotions in check. He knew where this was heading. "I'm not interested in being your pawn, Zarake." She paused, her eyes narrowing slightly. "A pawn? No, Marcus. You misunderstand. This is not a game of pawns. This is a game of kings." She motioned to the group behind her. "You could lead them. All of them. Humans, aliens, together. The power is within your grasp." Marcus felt a surge of anger. He knew what she was trying to do, twist his desire for survival into something darker. "I'm not a king. I'm a man who's trying to feed the people who depend on him." "And you will," Zarake said smoothly. "But at what cost? You've seen the destruction. You know the dangers that await humanity. We are not here to destroy you, Marcus. We are here to help you save what's left." He shook his head, refusing to let the temptation take hold. "I don't believe you." Zarake's smile widened, though it didn't reach her eyes. "You will, eventually. But not yet. You will come to understand, Marcus. When the time is right." The silence between them grew heavy. Marcus stood tall, staring into her eyes, trying to see past the illusion of kindness she offered. There was no doubt in his mind that her words were designed to break him down, to make him second-guess everything he had fought for. But he wouldn't give in. He couldn't. "You'll never get what you want from me," Marcus said, his voice firm. "Not now, not ever." Zaraka's gaze hardened, but she didn't move. For a moment, there was only silence, the kind of silence that could swallow a person whole. And then, with a flick of her wrist, she turned away, signaling her entourage to follow. "We'll see," she said, her voice lingering in the air like a promise. "The choice will come, Marcus. And you will make it." Marcus watched them leave, his heart pounding in his chest. The weight of the moment lingered, like a cloud hanging over him. He had rejected them, for now. But he knew this wouldn't be the end. Zaraka would return. And when she did, he would have to make the choice he had been dreading. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Marcus turned back to his stall. The food was still simmering, the familiar scent filling the air. But for the first time in days, he didn't feel like cooking. The world was changing, and the choice ahead was one he couldn't avoid forever.